Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Hey, this is Governor Chris Christie from New Jersey. Good day, doctors.
Go! You're watching Dr. Politics.
Good Friday, everyone. We are back after a 2-week hiatus, I think. We trust everyone had a great Christmas and Hanukkah. Here we are, December 29th, the last episode of Dr. Politics for 2023.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of the new opening, by the way?
I liked it. I saw Chris Christie.
Yeah. Yeah, he was at our convention, and I got him to do that. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And, what do you call it? Yeah, recent, yeah. So, Don, what did you think of that opening? You've seen it before, but.
Yeah, no. I mean, I like it. I mean, I like the fact that, you keep refreshing it every once in a while. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. I still need to do some tweaking with that because the pictures didn't come in right the way I want them to. They were supposed to slide in and slide out.
Mm.
Like a more slick appeal to it, so to speak. But yeah, 2023. Bye soon.
Good riddance. Good riddance.
I will second that. Yes, it is good to see 2023 go. It's 23 didn't start off bad, but sure it ended really badly. Right?
Yeah. And I think on the Hill, Republicans in the whole McCarthy fight, I mean, that was sort of one of the things that kind of made 2023 politically frustrating because it was just seemed needless to me. So,
well, we like to eat our own evidence.
Yeah, I guess so.
And you've got, and then we had the Hamas attack on Israel,
that's right. Yeah, that's
or Palestinian. There's not a dime split the difference between the Palestinian state and Hamas, frankly.
Yeah.
I know. So yeah.
But Biden continues to tumble. But Biden's popularity continues to tumble.
Yeah, and something. He's losing vote in Pennsylvania. I don't know if you saw this, Don. Registration has swung from Democrats to Republicans. You've got a lot of. I think it was like 13,000 Democrats have re-registered as Republicans in Pennsylvania.
I think it's like 35,000, but it was a net because you also had some Republicans go to Democrat, but it's like a net of something like 13,000, I think.
Yeah, keep going in this direction. You'll have John Fetterman voting for Trump.
Yeah, that's
John
right.
Fetterman's been a little bit critical of Donald Trump. Too. I mean, Joe Biden.
He's actually coming on our radars. Like maybe we like this guy a little bit more now than we ever we did before.
Well, I don't know. I just wonder is how real is it, or to some degree, is he positioning himself because he realizes that Biden's such a disaster? I don't know how much of it's real and how much of he's still in generally a swing state. I mean, Pennsylvania's still pretty swing. So
you'd think he'd be their kindred spirits, him and Joe Biden. They're both a little mentally ill.
Yeah, sure. Both had brain operations too, right? Because Biden had a brain operation.
Did he?
Yeah, remember?
Was that did they forget to put the brains back in when they did that?
I don't know, but I think it was an aneurysm case, and he did have surgery. They opened up his head. So, sorry.
Yes, they forgot to put the brains back in.
Too many jokes.
Explains a lot now. That just explains a whole lot of stuff about Joey B. But yeah, I mean, Fetterman coming out, it's like, it's crazy. I mean, I think he
Well,
likes
he
that
was
guy.
Well, he's been good on Israel. It looks like he's been good on, and then in terms of the border, he's talking about doing something. Now, what I don't know, but he has sounded the alarm about all the people coming in.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know.
you know, it's-
we've seen Democrats are frustrated. A lot of them are frustrated with the administration, right?
Mm.
look at all the
Yeah.
big city mayors who want more money from
Oh
Biden.
yeah. But
Uh,
Eric Adams complains that Biden won't even meet with him. Won't even meet with him. So,
you know, it's kind of like that kind of reminds me of the story of Barack Obama. After he lost, he ran for either Congress or something in 1996.
mm,
I want to say, or maybe 2000.
yeah.
But he wasn't able to get any credentials or anything like that to the convention and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I thought
something
that's kind of
about that.
humorous, the story is, then, he was a nobody, and then all of a sudden, but
Yeah. That's weird how politics works. You're right. Yeah.
but do you think Joe Biden would open the doors and at least make a phone call to Eric Adams? It's just stupid, this part, frankly,
Well, especially since Adams is the mayor of the largest city in the country, and that city is a very Democrat city. But
Yeah.
there may
Well-
be another reason for it. Remember, Adams is being investigated, so I don't know if
What's he
that
being
has-
investigated for? This is the first time well, I've heard about it, but it's like,
I don't know. I think it's some financial chicanery or something.
yeah.
I don't know. I think it deals with a staffer, but I don't know all the details. But
Mhm.
maybe that's the excuse for not talking with him.
Well, yeah, I mean, he still talks to Hunter, and Hunter's under investigation. I'm sure they,
That's right.
where are they, St. Croix this year? Is that where they are? Or was that last year? There's
I think
they're
this year,
Bermuda.
St. Croix. Yeah.
St. Croix, yeah. I just hope Buffalo doesn't get wild with a blizzard like they did last time while he was enjoying his ice cream on the beach while Buffalo was out of power.
Yeah. Someone
Yeah.
said, I don't know if this has been verified, but that he spent 40% of his presidency on vacation.
Yeah, that's about right. Sounds like
They
it.
count St. Croix and other places he's been and his home as a vacation spot.
Well, remember they used to criticize President Bush who'd go to Crawford.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was-
They criticized Reagan going out to his
Yeah.
ranch. I mean,
That's true. Yeah.
but it does seem that with Trump and with Biden, that the presidents are spending a lot more time on vacation there's a lot more scrutiny. I think, because we're in that 24/7 news cycle that, there's just more attention being paid. So all of a sudden, the media is adding up every little thing. And depending upon which side of the aisle you're on, you're going to say, oh, well, Trump has spent, half his, presidency, playing golf. Now it's Biden spending time in Delaware and going other places or whatever.
When he goes to Delaware, he's causing a traffic jam. Just like a couple weeks ago when he came to Bethesda, like he couldn't take a helicopter.
Mm.
I would tend to hope or believe that, when these Republican presidents went on vacation as such, or vacation, whatever, that, they were still somewhat of a working vacation. They were still doing things. You can't ignore being the president of the United States. I mean, it's not like you basically put away your cell phones and whatever and go off the grid. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's a little more questionable about Biden working, because we're not sure when he's here whether or not he's working.
Here's a question for you guys, right? We've all had employees we've managed and so on, right? If you had an employee and they decided to go willy-nilly on a vacation without even telling you about it, he's your employee, you'd fire him, wouldn't you?
Mm.
Shouldn't Joe Biden ask the people that hired him and pay his salary, hey, can I take 2 weeks off to go to St. Croix?
Yeah.
Can I knock off early on Friday so I can go home to Delaware?
Yeah.
You think, he would, he should.
As I say, put a lid on it at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, The other thing is, in Pete Buttigieg's case, he took the job as Secretary of Transportation, but did he tell, in interviewing for that job, did he tell Joe Biden, by the way, I'm going to be taking a couple months off this year because my partner and I are adopting a baby and I'll need maternity leave? I mean, did he say that up front?
I want to say he probably.
It's just a difference if you take a job and then within that first year, you're taking 2 months off. I don't know.
It'd be one thing if it was a death in the family or something, and you had to kind of go away for a few days.
Yeah, but this was planned. You're right, but this was planned. You know,
exactly.
Look. I mean, I think just like a lot of things in politics. I mean, the president of the United States is the commander in chief. I'm not trying to give Biden a pass here or anything like that, but it's not like with the entourage that he needs and security needs. It's not like they just decided to go on a whim on vacation. These things have to be laid out. Plans have to be made, security has to be arranged, and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, are they someone that, I mean, they're responsible to the taxpayers in a sense, but I mean, we have, how much history of presidents having gone on vacation. I mean, this is, look at Congress. I mean, I think Congress is even worse because, their work schedule is, they're not even around a lot. I mean, their vacation schedules are just absolutely ridiculous. And, that they go back, they theoretically go back to their districts and work the districts. But, we know that doesn't happen to a large extent. It'd be nice if Congress was actually doing something when they were in town. But, I think over the last 20 or 30 years, the American public is just getting a little bit more tired of politicians in general and politics and saying like, what good are, we have, this is, we love our form of government. It's definitely better than European government structures and things like that. But, you begin to wonder, it's like, how effective are these politicians, these people we're electing? I mean, how much does it really matter in the long run? I mean, there's a lot of people, it seems like we're running in place a lot of times. We're really just kind of grinding gears, but not really getting anywhere.
Speaking of Europe, the joke was that Joe Biden doesn't even work a French work week, which I guess is 35 hours a week.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even thought about that. I mean, you go to Europe, what kind of worker protections are there in Europe? Tremendous, their work weeks are very short and they're paid pretty well. Yeah, and it's almost impossible to lay anybody off in Europe. It's really difficult. They make it very, very hard to do that. So, a lot of these corporations, businesses are not very efficient because they can't, they're stuck in this system that just stinks.
Yeah. And, I'll disagree with our commenter GH there. No, the president is our employee. We hire him. We pay his salary. We're the taxpayer. He works for us. We don't work for him, frankly. And no, he does work for us, frankly.
Well, anyway, I just thought that was always amazing, though, to be able to, take off a couple months of your job right in your first year.
Yeah. And, what's funny is that I want to say it might not be a bad thing that he's not around. Every time he's not here, he can't cause any harm or damage, frankly, to the country.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, yeah, maybe so. I mean, I would say that of some things. When it comes to the president, their effect on a lot of things can be somewhat muted. I mean, with this administration, part of the issue is that Joe Biden really isn't doing a lot. He's not really running. He's basically turned the running of the government over to the left wing, right, to the leftists, to the liberals, and just let them go do things. It's kind of like, we want this. Oh, okay, that sounds like a good plan. Let's go with that. He doesn't have a lot of originality or ideas or things like that. I mean, at least with Trump, with even though it was like a bull in a china shop, the guy, he said things, he got things done. I mean, I think a lot of presidents, actually did some things, and they are supposed to lead the nation, instill some confidence, kind of guide things along and stuff like that. But Biden, I mean, boy, we've got, it's just a whole big problem with him. He doesn't really know what he's doing. He's got terrible advisors. If he loses the election in 2024, it's going to be, his fault as well as those he surrounded himself. If you're going to give yourself over to the left, then you're going to pay the price in the long run, because I don't, it's a minority of the people that want the kind of policies and government that Joe Biden has put into place. that's not what the people voted for in 2020. They didn't vote for this stuff.
He
Yeah,
ran
like
as a moderate. He ran as a moderate. He did the bait and switch on us,
Yeah.
frankly. And the legality of him even winning is questionable, frankly. You know, we have precincts in Philadelphia at 100% turnout. That's insane.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and I think it's just I think he doesn't really have the strength either politically or mentally to stand up to his base. He really can't at this point. He's got to he can't really handle that sort of debate. Really, you know, it's interesting that he apparently this year canceled his end of the year press conference, and I think presidents used to do that. I think this is the second year he's canceled it. I mean, it's just amazing for me to see a president with a 39% approval rating. It's probably worse than that, but going into an election year, and that's okay, press. I don't need to talk to you, even though he knows that questions will be generally friendly. So that just suggests to me someone who's really struggling.
I mean, Peter Doocy can only get one question off, maybe.
Yeah, and they're all going to be generally easy, but he still can't do it.
And then he'll get those softball questions from MSNBC. What did you buy Mrs. Biden for Christmas?
Yeah. My favorite of all the sycophantic questions with Chuck Todd asks Joe Biden when he's running for president about COVID. He says, "Is there blood on Trump's hands?" I mean, can you imagine such a, here, let me throw you this little teeny softball for you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Chuck Todd. You know, Chuck Todd, speaking of Chuck Todd, I was, you know, he was the biggest critic of President Bush going to Crawford. You know, and everyone Obama was being inaugurated, he's on MSNBC in the morning going, "Oh, it's so great to have a president. It's actually going to go out and do something." You know, the Bushes never went out of the White House. They ate there, ate at home, you know, didn't go out. You know, being president means you should be going out in the community and so on. It's like, you know, good. You know.
And he allowed Biden to hide in his basement at that entire campaign. But I don't think it's going to work this time. So we'll see.
You know,
that's part of the problem for 2024. I mean, it's just that, you know, putting Biden out there on his own without a teleprompter, which he doesn't always do very well with anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he may be one of the worst readers of a prompter that we've got. But you know, but when he doesn't have, you know, that to go on, if he doesn't stick to a script, he's, you know, this is a very bad situation, because I think even a softball question he'll get lost on if he doesn't have something to go on. I mean, he's not very well prepared, and I do think that his mind, you know, definitely is not anywhere where, you know, it should be, you know, for a president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So we just, you know, he's just so vulnerable on so many fronts. And as we say, I mean, you know, having a president going into the election year with, you know, with such a low popularity rating, you know, it'll be a miracle for him to turn this around. And it's not, you know, and he doesn't have a vice president to help boost him, right? I mean,
no. She's even worse. She may be even worse. So
well, yeah, she was, you know, I mean, she's there. I mean, it's a whole gender race card, you know, kind of play on, you know, Biden bowed down to all of that and put her in there. And she's been a disaster. She's terrible, you know, at virtually everything that she's touched and done. You know, every time they interview her, it's a complete word salad. You're like, what the heck did she just say?
We're both old. I mean, we're all old enough to remember Vice President Dan Quayle.
Yeah.
He was so much better than Crazy Camilla.
Oh, and they savaged him.
You know, when he misspells a word, it's the front page of the Washington Post.
Yeah, you know, but they don't go after Harris like they will on a lot of Republicans. Kind of the same thing in terms of, you know, Karine Jean-Pierre as the press secretary. This has got to be like one of the worst press secretaries I've seen in watching politics.
Yeah.
But you know, except for conservatives, nobody really goes after her because you've got a black lesbian, you know, female, you know, press secretary. What do you do? How do you know? Anything you say will be called as, you know, racist or whatever, homophobic. So you know, she's virtually untouchable. And Biden, I mean, I think as for the same reason, they maybe they would like to replace her with someone else, but they can't. I mean, they're stuck. He's put so many people of these, he's tried to build this diverse cabinet, but he's had one disaster of another with a lot of his cabinet members, but getting rid of them is a whole nother avenue because he's created this diversity. He's like, all this, racism and all these other charges could easily be brought up, by even people on the left if they dump them.
Yeah,
that is very true.
He's stuck with them.
Yeah.
They would do him a favor if they resigned, but they're not doing it.
Yeah,
well, by the way, the Biden campaign has unveiled a new slogan this week. It's called "Nobody's Perfect." Biden Harris 2024.
Okay, yeah.
That's your tagline. Nobody's perfect, and that is.
Is that a joke or you're sincere?
It's a joke. I found an Agnew 76 button that said "Nobody's perfect."
Right.
Hey, that could be a great slogan for the Biden campaign. Feel free to use that Biden campaign.
Yeah.
But
well,
I tell you, we're close to the Iowa caucus.
Yeah.
And let's see, we have is Nikki Haley just kind of stepped on a mine, so to speak. I don't think she was totally wrong, frankly, or it was. Feel free to disagree. Slavery was one of the issues.
Yeah, it's just one,
not the only issue. But I think she should have just said it was about slavery. Moved on, frankly, she did. In her comment about really this question.
Well, and the other thing about her, she is from South Carolina. So, of course, South Carolinians always had a view that it was more economic than slavery. But I didn't hear her answer, but based on what you said, I don't think she was wrong either.
Mm-hmm.
She just, I think she wasn't, first of all, you kind of wonder, it's like, why is somebody asking that question to begin with, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of it's a odd question, but it definitely, I think, caught her off guard, and she really wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
I think she wanted to make kind of the states' rights argument. Didn't necessarily effectively convey that, but by leaving slavery out, she opened herself up, to a whole lot of criticism.
Mm-hmm.
Does it really hurt her in the long run? No, I mean,
really.
it's like exactly where is the Civil War and slavery as an issue in the 2024 campaign? It's not.
Well, if you watch those ACLU commercials, you think we're just we're basically fighting slavery right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what party was the one that was really behind, civil rights legislation, and doing things, and she could have made other points that would have strengthened the position, but people in the heat of the moment, you flub up. I mean, people make mistakes. I mean, that's I don't think that this is not a fatal blow, but when you're starting to rise in the polls and you're starting to make some noise, and then you become the target. I mean, she's kind of considered the next big threat to Trump potentially. So any little mistake will be amplified.
Yeah, it looks like we need to answer GH's question about why I ran for county council. I ran for county council because taxes are too high in Montgomery County. Schools suck, and we've got too many Democrats on the county council. That's why I ran. Please, can I go Mark Levin yet? But anyways, I think, I don't think it hurts her in the grand scheme of things, frankly. Although I'm kind of resolved to the fact that President Trump's going to be our nominee again. I'd be really shocked, if he is not, my view is anybody but Biden. I will support our party's nominee. That even includes Governor Christie from New Jersey.
Well, I mean, Steve Kornacki from MSNBC, he's famous for his whiteboard, and he likes to do all these things.
Yeah.
I mean, he's even charted out, it's like, kind of with Trump and, before all the legal issues, all the indictments, all this kind of stuff, where Trump was versus now. And all of that legal stuff that the Democrats and others thought would sink Trump have put him to the top.
Yeah.
Have completely the opposite effect.
I don't think the Democrats understand the fact that every time they indict him, every time they try to take him off about, he raises another $1 million off of it.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, it's so obvious that they're targeting him so hard that every time they go after him, it helps him. And it helps them not just with conservatives, but probably a lot of independents that think, hey, this is ridiculous. This is throwing everything except the kitchen sink really at them.
Right.
Well,
it's not hard to make the argument that this is all political, right? There's very little legal justification for doing what they've done with all these different cases. The documents case is probably a little more iffy for him. There's more questions about that, but all these other things there, it's just really pretty tenuous but it's obvious political. I mean, and you can say the same thing about all the ballot, and with Colorado and knocking them off the ballot, or Maine knocking them off the ballot, things like this. This is not about, this is not legal. This is not going to be constitutional. It is purely political, and it won't stand.
Yeah, and the Supreme Court will knock it down, and I hope it's the 9-0 decision, frankly.
Yeah. Should be,
because what they're going to say.
Yeah, you would think it would be, but those liberals are pretty.
Oh yeah, it's going to be. What they're going to do is then you're going to hear Democrats whine until the cows come home about, like in 2000. Oh, it was Bush. It was all the Republican appointed judges in the Supreme Court that voted in Bush v. Gore. And give me a break.
But it's amazing that the chutzpah of Colorado basically taking the power to say, well, we can decide what an insurrection is, who committed it, and they can be on the ballot when they have no constitutional authority whatsoever. And same thing in Maine, where the Secretary of State decides, you can't be on the ballot.
Yeah, and that was even worse. It's one thing. It's one thing.
We're not going to win either of those states.
But to have the Secretary of State just unilaterally saying, "Yeah, we're taking them off the ballot." Come on.
And we're not going to win those states anyways in November. Frankly, what was the last time I think President Bush maybe the last one that won Colorado, and Maine. I don't remember if we've ever won Maine.
Well, you never know with Biden in the case of Colorado. I mean, it's definitely a Democrat state, but
Reagan would have won Maine.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, Bush Senior won Maine too in 1988. Yeah, 88. Because he also had a 49 state sweep against Michael Dukakis, who likes to send prisoners on weekend furloughs to Maryland.
That's right, and that's why Bush won Maryland in '88.
Yes, he did.
That's the last time a Republican won Maryland. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm convinced the reason Bush ended up pulling off Maryland in '88 was the Dukakis furlough, because remember
Willie Horton did it. Yeah.
You had cases in Maryland where people got out in Maine and came to Maryland to commit crimes.
It also it was actually not Maine. Was it Massachusetts? It was Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Willie Horton was furloughed. He gave him a weekend pass.
Yeah.
And he came down.
The left is still mad at those ads. They're still mad at Floyd Brown.
They're still mad about Bush v. Gore in 2000.
Yeah,
they still think Al Gore won. That's how.
Yeah, I haven't heard Floyd Brown's name mentioned in a long time.
Oh yeah,
Willie Horton. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but my reading of the 14th Amendment is just the opposite of Colorado's. I don't think they have the power to, like I said, to decide who can be on a federal ballot or what constitutes an insurrection and a insurrection.
I was like, well, what was that?
Chuck Schumer made that same mistake. I don't think they have that power. An insurrection or a rebellion. I don't think they have that power.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, I think the insurrection, he hasn't been, the president has never been charged for insurrection.
Right. And was acquitted in the Senate, but was in the Senate, and the House was acquitted in the Senate.
Yes. And, I mean, if you want to play these games, I'm sure we could get Joe Biden thrown off Republican-controlled states' ballots if we wanted to, frankly. Kick him off the Florida ballot, kick him off the Georgia ballots, and so on. But
the lefties would go crazy. They'd say this is
they'd go insane.
Sabotage democracy. Remember they used to be concerned about. Remember they were concerned about protecting our democracy. That was the whole Liz Cheney sort of argument. And now you got
Democratizing
Michigan
darkness.
looking at, not Michigan, but Maine and Colorado, and maybe some other states looking at getting Trump off the ballot.
By the way, if
Though
President
California
Trump,
said they weren't, right?
Okay.
but if President Trump is such a weak candidate and Joe Biden is this gold standard of politics, why? What do you call? Is it that they're not letting? They would welcome having Trump run again.
Yeah.
If he is such a weak candidate, they think, what are they afraid of? If you feel Joe Biden can beat, if I thought my horse was really that great, I would not need to do anything to tip the scales in his favor because my horse is so much better than theirs.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
you know,
They'll do what they can.
that's what we do. We flip from topic to topic. Wait till we get to the gardening section of the show.
They'll play dirty.
But it is one of those things. And sticking with Colorado, you saw Representative Boebert is changing districts to the reddest district in Colorado, which is, I think it's great. That's a seat we'll hold.
You don't think there'll be backlash? I mean, it just sort of seems like kind of a brazen, I don't know.
We've had people in Maryland who don't even live in the 6th district who have run, for Congress in the 6th district. I mean, one person lives.
Because remember, you don't have to be in the district.
Yeah.
You don't.
In Maryland, the Maryland 6th district, in the early years, we've had people that lived all the way across the state in Anne Arundel County run in that seat, as well as somebody lives a few blocks away, who's David Trone's neighbor in the 8th district running in the 6th, it is what it is, you can do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Boebert was in trouble. I mean, she was going to face a tough race. She's made so many mistakes, particularly this past year. I mean, I think it's she's chickening out. She doesn't want to face that. Buck is retiring, so she's going to go to that district, which is fine. But she may face some competition there. I want to see her primaried and out of there. I don't think that she serves the Republicans well at all in the House. And it's just one of those people. Both parties. They always have some people who are just, they make mistakes and they're terrible and they shouldn't be there. Lauren Boebert is one. She could have been a rising star at one time, but she's totally screwed it up. So I'd like to just say goodbye and give me somebody new.
Yeah.
And Buck's district is much more Republican.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. And she probably will be. Will she be primary? Probably. Because
by going to that district, I mean, there are already other people that are. If they haven't declared, they will be declaring soon to run. So it's not like she's stepping into a place where it's like, all of a sudden thank you for running because you're going to save us. The Republicans in a safe district were not looking for that. She just probably creates more headaches for the Republican Party than anything else.
Yeah, I agree.
And we've got, and let's see, we've got, 2020 looking back, we've got, actually, before we get to that, Rudy Giuliani files for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And the left has gone insane about it.
I still don't really understand that ruling. I mean, $100 and something million, you got to pay somebody else. Yeah, I can't see how that's justice or worth it. I mean, maybe he defamed some people, but they're never going to make $151 million.
Yeah, I think the thing that surprised me about this whole thing right now is just that where the judge rules that you need to go and pay them. I mean, where's the process to kind of appeal and and get this amount reduced or whatever? I mean,
very true.
Rudy Giuliani, from America's mayor to this point, has fallen mightily. And he really did himself a disservice.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of sympathy for what he did and these rulings in general. He doesn't have the money to pay them. So it's also the ruling really doesn't like a lot of lawsuits. I mean, go ahead, you might as well have made this $500 million. He doesn't have the money to pay. He can't even pay his own lawyers at this stage. So, he's ruined himself financially. He's ruined himself, from his credibility standpoint and everything like that. It's kind of a sad ending for him in that sense. But
he was America's mayor. If he had a better strategy in 2008, he could have been our nominee. Instead of waiting to Florida to start campaigning.
Yeah, he was the front runner for a while. Remember in that campaign? He was the front runner.
He was. Everybody liked him. Then he dropped out. They all started dropping like flies in 2008.
But you're right. He had an interesting strategy because he did skip. He skipped He skipped to Iowa. He's going to skip. New
Fred
Hampshire.
Thompson did the same thing. Fred Thompson,
South Carolina.
Skipped everything and started in South Carolina. Fred Thompson did the same thing that year.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. All right.
And what do we learn from that? You don't skip primaries. You do them all.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah.
Vivek, is now Vivek Ramaswamy is now faulting all his ad buys in Iowa, which in Iowa, I think he's also stopping in New Hampshire, right, Don? Vivek, he's suspended ads in New Hampshire and Iowa, which I think he might be on his way out, frankly.
He's independently wealthy and he can keep funding his campaign, but they obviously looked at
Mm-hmm.
what's going on there, and they're seeing that they'd just be throwing money down the drain to do the advertising. I mean, and DeSantis better do well in Iowa. I mean, Nikki Haley, she's got the endorsement of Sununu in New Hampshire, so that's where she's probably going to pin her.
DeSantis has to finish first or second in Iowa. I don't think a third place finish would work for him.
Yeah, and he's got Tim Reynolds is back in him.
I still think he's got to finish. He's got to finish number one to keep things going because the way this year's gone for him.
I mean, money's already starting to dry up for him. He's not raising the money like he did. And I tell you, he's got the same problem. A lot of candidates, they hire consultants, and the consultants are like vampires. They suck the money out of the campaign. Scott Walker had the same problem in 2016. Scott Walker was the guy to beat in 2016. We all love Scott Walker. He brought down the big teachers unions and so on. And he didn't get the nominee because he had
from an important swing state. He had so much going for him. Important swing state.
Scott Walker was a great governor for Wisconsin, but when it came to running us for president, just didn't work.
Yeah, and I think this happens to a lot of good candidates. First thing they do is they'll go and hire some consultant that somebody else had, and those consultants, they see dollar signs when they get a bit high-profile candidate, whether it be Ron DeSantis, Governor DeSantis, Governor Walker. It happens, frankly, and it's not a good thing, frankly. It's too many, Ron DeSantis, I think, would have been a fine president, Well, I'm not ruling him out yet, but, he, would have been, but then again, a lot of Floridians are kind of happy that if he doesn't become president, because they really love Ron in the Sunshine State, they want him to stay there and keep Florida moving in the right direction, frankly.
Well, I agree with Don. I think if he can, if he comes in second in Iowa, I think he'll still keep alive. I think he needs to beat Haley there and everybody else there. I'm assuming Trump ends up still winning Iowa. I don't know, but I think at least second. If DeSantis can do second there, I think it keeps him alive.
Yeah, like I said, it's first or second. But I tell you, the whole calculus changes if Nikki wins Iowa.
Yeah.
And wins New Hampshire, then you've got a fight on your hands, and
I think so.
Be a slugfest.
And presumably,
I think
she'll do okay in South Carolina. It's her state. It's her home state. So,
that's funny you should say that. Home states. I believe Marco, Marco struggled in Florida in 2016.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I think he won. I do seem to remember he won Florida, but
I think
it was not like a slam dunk. It was not a slam dunk for him,
As you mentioned that, I think he did end up winning Florida.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. It's like a tough, problem is when you have a former president that's running for his old job back, unless they've done a totally lousy job, they're usually going to be a nominee, frankly,
Yeah, usually. But what about independents? What are this is the other thing. If you look at the states, you have to look at the state laws. And New Hampshire, they're not really having a primary, right? Because Biden's not on the ballot. So can Democrats vote in the Republican primary?
Yes, they have open primaries in New Hampshire. I remember very well in 1988, Larry King was telling all the Democrats to go to the polls and vote for Pat Buchanan to bloody up George H.W. Bush.
So might that happen to help Trump? Maybe the Democrats, if they still want Trump, do they get in and they vote for Trump? Or do they hate Trump so much that they figure, let's vote for Haley?
Yeah, it could happen. I will say, remember, Iowa picks quorums, New Hampshire picks presidents.
Yeah.
But she's got the endorsement of John Sununu, very popular governor, there. And
Chris Sununu?
Chris
John's
Sununu,
the father, right? Huh?
Yes. Another great, he was also very well loved in New Hampshire, and he was a governor of New Hampshire.
That's right. And maybe he also endorsed Haley. I don't know. I think if Haley, if she pulls the upset in New Hampshire, and I don't think that'll be the case, but if she does, then yeah, she'll definitely have some life, and maybe you'll have
I think if she wins New Hampshire, let's say if she wins New Hampshire and she comes in second in Iowa behind Donald Trump,
right?
I think DeSantis may drop out at that point.
Yeah, maybe. And
after New Hampshire,
yeah, maybe. And then you're looking at early on a 2-person battle. I mean, we're speculating, but maybe a 2.
Yeah, and I think. Well, actually, I think that by Super Tuesday, because Super Tuesday is Donald Trump's advantage, frankly.
All right.
And I think he will run the tables on Super Tuesday like he did in 2016. Yeah. And we'll probably know, like Maryland's primary is May 14th, I believe it is. Next year. I don't know. When is Virginia part of Super Tuesday next year?
I don't think so. We usually come in late, but maybe I'm wrong.
Because I know you guys, we used to do a Chesapeake primary to be Maryland, Virginia, and DC. And that was when we had our primaries in March. Now we're all the way in May.
Well, traditionally we've been late, but I'm not sure this time. But usually we come in late.
But by the time
we come in, it's already done.
Yeah, it's pretty much how it was. Let me tell you, in 2008, Mitt Romney was running against John McCain. Mm-hmm. I was so excited I'd be able to vote for Mitt Romney in Maryland, right, and try and stop the John McCain machine. He drops out the day before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So looks like Virginia is going to be on Super Tuesday, March 5th.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Oh, your vote's going to count, David.
All right, yeah, great.
Your vote's actually going to count. Unlike Don and I, we vote on. It'll be a symbolic vote. Although I do hope we have sort of a primary because it really will hurt some of the down ballot candidates on turnout. Like if it's already decided that it's going to be, Trump, people are just going to stay home. And that's going to hurt the primary we have for Senate, the primary we have for CD6, the primary we have for CD3, CD2. Yes, we have a primary in CD1, but I don't think that's a serious primary. I think Andy Harris is going to run away with that one, frankly. But, we've got, I don't think we have anybody running in CD8 yet, though. Somebody want to switch over to CD8? You have no primary right now. And the filing deadline is February 9th, I believe.
Oh, so we don't have anybody running an 8?
Nobody's running an 8.
Huh.
Is that Western Maryland? Where is the 8th?
No, where I live and Don live. It's Montgomery County. It's half of Montgomery.
Okay, well, that's right. Yeah.
And then it's like half of Frederick County too.
Well, unless
maybe
Connie
part of
Morello
Washington
wants to
County.
come back.
You know, funny, I was talking about Connie Morello today. You know, we were talking about, you know, Connie. I know we all voted for Connie Morello. We knew she wasn't our kind of Republican, but, you know, she made sure we had Newt Gingrich as speaker, you know.
Right, yeah.
You know,
And she voted to impeach Clinton. She also voted to impeach Clinton, I believe.
No, she didn't.
Oh, no? I thought she was one of the...
Oh, no, she did not. She did not.
Oh, I didn't know.
Because I remember I was speaking at Career Day at my old high school, and Connie Morello was there. Yeah. And evidently, somebody called, basically, like, somebody gave out Connie's phone number, and it was wrong, and it was going to someone else. Mm-hmm. And that person calls up Connie and goes, "Oh, by the way, you've got 12 people that say you shouldn't impeach, and you got 3 people that says you should impeach." It's like he was actually giving her the tallies. And I'm like, you know, Connie never would have voted for impeachment, frankly.
All right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I tell you this, Connie Morello, she did everything for the Democrats. They still shafted her in redistricting. They gave her PG County. Probably, you know, after she lost, when they did redistricting after that, they took out PG County out of the 8th district.
All right, okay. Huh.
You know, so it's kind of like, you know, they're not going to like you just because you do what they want.
I know.
Just remember that, Republicans, you know.
Well,
I mean, look at, go ahead.
Well, what Morton Blackwell would tell us, you don't make friends of your enemies by making enemies of your friends.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
In other words, yeah.
And, you know, it's funny. Like, her and Helen Bentley were both like that. Helen Bentley was just more grumpy than and Connie. But Helen Bentley was the second Republican elected in Maryland. Let's see. Yeah, maybe in my life. Marjorie Holt was the first Republican. And she represented the Annapolis area, I believe. And her district, Annapolis, and I think she maybe had parts of Baltimore County in her district as well.
All right.
But then Helen won. She beat KKT. And then Connie Morello. We had a steady growth. We had Marjorie Holt, I think, 1980. Was that when she was elected on? Marjorie Holt, 1980, or was it 78? Because then in 82, we elected Helen Bentley. Helen Bentley. And then 84, we elected Connie Morello when Mike Barnes decided to run for the U.S. Senate. And he lost to a nobody named Barbara Mikulski. I mean,
that's right.
We never heard of Barbara Mikulski in this part of the state. And she became, she became our senator.
Yeah.
And she retired finally,
She beat Linda Chavez.
I know, and it's funny. I was reading an article. We did a salute to Governor Ehrlich this year. Yeah. And somebody mentioned how, because, we don't send out invitations anymore. We send out emails, right?
Right.
And somebody made a comment how Michael Steele did not get an engraved invitation from the party. Well, I'm sorry, nobody got engraved invitations from the party, including our guest of honor.
Well, would he even be wanted, though? I just wondered.
No, but here's the thing: if he showed up, people would have been cordial with him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We weren't going to say, traitor.
Right. Yeah. But that's interesting that you say that. They don't mail them anymore. And I guess you're right. I don't get too many invites in the mail. You're right. It's mostly on email.
Yeah.
When I first started in politics, you had the nice envelopes.
Oh, yeah.
You fold them in such a way.
There's like wedding invitations.
Huh?
Yeah. There's like wedding invitations. And
exactly.
And I want to say we in Montgomery County may have been the first counties that did away with that. And we went with a postcard. We did a one-page postcard.
All right.
And we had a little tear-off thing. It had all the information. It cost us, it was like about, I want to say sending the wedding invitation cost us maybe, I don't know, whatever the price the stamp was, a little bit more. I think it may cost us. Were stamps ever 35 cents in the 2000s, Don? Like 2012, or they were more than that, right? Were they like 48 cents?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, postage rates are now going up twice a year, so it's kind of moving up fast.
What is the price of a stamp now? I mean,
I think it's 63 and it's going to go to 66 in January.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow.
Well, I'm glad I've got a whole bunch of forever stamps.
Yeah, I was about to say, save your forever stamps.
So if I ever have to mail a letter,
Yeah.
you know, it's funny. Everywhere you pay your bills online and all that, right? Our friend Bats Don, when he was living in the city of Annapolis, all the bills he could pay online except the water bill, he had to mail a check to them.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and he was telling me, going, stamps are stupid expensive.
Yeah.
But although you can buy the James Webb NASA stamps buy them before the prices go up, the forever stamps, you know, I think all stamps are forever stamps now, right, Don?
What's that?
I think all stamps now are forever stamps. I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the standard thing there, because by doing that, the Postal Service doesn't have to issue
The penny
new
stamps.
stamps and stuff like that. You remember, I think even in the old days, and when they started making increases, they would actually issue, it's like a supplemental stamp, to make as you have your old rate, and then you get like a 3-cent stamp, and then you put it together and becomes a new one until they got the new ones printed. So this is, for the post office, I mean, it probably in the long run saves them money. I mean, I don't think a lot of people hoard stamps enough that they're holding on to so many stamps that when the price increases, they're sitting on a mini gold mine or anything like that.
Right.
So, but the printing costs, if you don't have to go back and print stamps every time you change the rates, and now that rates can go up twice a year, that would just be a major league headache.
I mean,
I think there are some stamps that have a denomination on them, but that may be related to like international mail and a few other, kind of specific things.
Yeah.
do you remember, like, back when I was working for you, stamps went up to 33 cents from 30 cents maybe in 96. They went up to like 33 cents. I remember I went to the post office by Union Station, bought $100 worth of penny stamps. Well, not $100, $1 worth of penny stamps. I still have some of those penny stamps around somewhere.
But one thing about U.S. stamps is that they're always valid, right? I mean, you can have a 50-year-old stamp that that's for 1 cent, 3 cent, 5 cent, whatever. Probably isn't. Most of those small denominations are not worth anything to collectors, but you can go ahead and just stick them on an envelope and voila. I mean, actually, it's part of a direct mail thing too, is that you have some of the organizations, they have a bunch of these old stamps, and they plaster the 9x12 envelopes with the postage on them to kind of anything you can do to make your package stand out so that it'll get open. That's yet another part of the marketing scheme, is throw some live stamps on there, and maybe people will pay attention versus just the standard mailing stamp or a nonprofit or an indicia or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you remember when we were at AIM, Peter LaBarbera used to get mail? Somebody sent him something with 33 1-cent stamps on the envelope.
Hey, look, I mean, I remember we used to have people back in the, like in the 70s and 80s, their contribution would be stamps. They would basically send a huge envelope full of postage stamps, and that would be their contribution. So in my house, I still have a lot of those stamps.
Wow.
That we've never really used. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with all these stamps?
Yeah. That's interesting.
But we're getting close to the end. But a couple things, let's real quick, we'll just go around real fast. Top 3 stories of 2023, Don.
All right. So I use this on my own show on Wednesday. And so my top 3 stories were kind of the rise and fall of EVs. EVs had EV sales had a good year. They had a very good year overall.
Yes.
But kind of, the shine kind of came off of the whole thing, right? We had all these auto companies that bent over backwards to go EV, and kind of follow the whole Biden mandate of, we're going to get rid of the internal combustion engine, the gas powered cars by 2035. So a lot of them basically decide they're going to go all in. Problem is that, as Ford and GM particularly found out, is that they would lose money on every car that they were selling. The cars were so expensive, the average Joe couldn't afford to buy an EV. And then the cost of the batteries, thanks to the pandemic and supply chain issues, had gone, crazy. Things have smoothed out, but you can kind of tell which way the wind is blowing when you have GM, which said, well, we're going to scale our plans back on the EVs, and we're going to reinvest in the business and do share buybacks and maybe do some dividend increases and help the stockholders out, because the EV revolution, maybe it was a little premature for them. So
is GM going to give those Buick dealerships their dealerships back that they bought back that didn't want to go EV?
No, but I mean that's the other part of it too, right? They bought back what, about 500 dealerships of the Buick dealerships.
That's a lot of dealerships.
That's half their dealers, because they told them, they said, if you don't convert and add, make improvements to, for the EV revolution here, the chargers and all these kind of things, then you'll lose your franchise. We'll basically buy you out. Half of them said, they looked at the numbers and are like, no, this is not making any sense. EVs right now, apparently EVs are taking about 3 months longer on the average to sell than a regular car, normal standard car. And people, they still have range anxiety and issues like that. Matter of fact, I just read an article about, about truckers. California has this thing about, going forward, that, new trucks, the big rigs, the tractor trailers are going to have to be EV. And there was a great story about how much extra cost this is adding on. They've got to, trucks go to a charging station, which tends to be inconvenient to begin with, a lot of times out of the way. They spend a lot of time waiting for the truck to charge. Then they can only go a certain amount of miles. This one guy, he gets paid an hourly rate plus a commission for every delivery he makes. And, so he still gets his normally hourly rate, but he made 2 deliveries in the course of his shift versus 6. He spent so much time at the charging station. You know how big a tractor trailer is. He says a lot of these sometimes chargers are, in areas where you can't pull a tractor trailer into a parking lot. So you basically offload the trailer somewhere, and then you bring the cab and you go over there, and then you try to get that. But, it's just an amazing, kind of a thing where this is not working. We don't have enough charging stations. We're not going to have enough charging stations. GM and a lot of part of their throwing in the towel was to say, we're gonna standardize our EVs going forward. We'll go to the Tesla charging system, which doesn't make Tesla owners very happy, because they actually had enough chargers. But now if you add in non-Tesla cars that can actually charge at the Tesla charging station, that's going to be another issue. It's a mess.
And what's funny? Detroit overlooked the obvious solution, which is the future, frankly. Hydrogen fuel cell cars.
You've been on that thing forever.
If General Motors had spent this much time developing a hydrogen-powered fuel cell car, they would be in a much better position today. And also, but putting in a infrastructure for hydrogen cars is not nearly as difficult as putting in a EV charging station, because basically these hydrogen fuel cells are being charged. And you can fill up a hydrogen fuel cell just as fast as you can fill up a gas tank. And that is the future, frankly. There's a number of articles about that I saw this past week. And
one of the things I see as a challenge to anything that's, other than gas, which is what we run on for the most part, is just that the economics of alternative charging types, devices, where is that for the station owner? Because these things are expensive to install. and they can't, if they're going to have to invest money, unless the government's basically paying to get the install completely done, and then subsidizing potentially the cost of the charging or something like that, can they make any money? Can they justify having those charging stations take up extra room where people run through a gas station? If you're sitting in your car, I mean, maybe you go into the gas station and buy a snack, but most part they're going to be sitting in their car watching Netflix or something like that, waiting for the stupid car to charge, and then going on their way because they're like, well, I've already spent 35 minutes here. I need to get back on the road. It's just this is pie in the sky. This stuff is just not working. All right, so that's one. Two is a pop culture thing. Is Taylor Swift. I think she was a huge news story this year. Over $1 billion in sale revenues, right, from her New Eras tour. I don't listen to her music. I don't listen to much music at all anyway. But she has been what a phenomenon. I mean, we've been listening to her for about half her life. It's pretty amazing. She is resilient. She's now giving the sports world big. Everybody's getting all goo goo gaga because of Travis Kelce and the KC jar. She's out there. She's cheering on Travis Kelce from with Patrick Mahomes' wife and all this kind of stuff. She's just something else. She's an economic force. I mean, if Biden wants to claim some success for his economy, you might want to thank Taylor Swift for generating a huge amount in ticket sales, merchandise, everything. She is her own mini economy. Amazing things that she's done. This past year. Something that is unlikely to get really repeated by anybody else. And then last, we've touched on this a little bit when we talked about politics, and that was Ron DeSantis. I think it's kind of the rise and fall of Ron DeSantis. You can start off the beginning of the year thinking that Ron DeSantis was going to be a very credible, challenger to Donald Trump and really make this an interesting race, if not win the nomination. But he's all but toast at this stage. He needs a major miracle, in my opinion, to actually do this because Trump is in very much control of this whole process now.
Yep.
So those are my three kind of top stories. Maybe some recency bias, but that is what it is.
David, your top three?
Well, I would say I'll stick sort of the political realm. I guess I'm not a big follower in the terms of the pop culture. I'm kind of usually out of it. Well, I'd say 2023 was a rough year for Kevin McCarthy. That's fair. Remember, the beginning of the year took him like 11 ballots or so to finally get the job he wanted, and then sort of got not stabbed in the back, but I think unfairly dumped. And that set off really a chain of, he's going to end up leaving, apparently. The party wasted, I think, a lot of time on this fight. And I think Mike Johnson will be good, but I don't think much changes. So it was just sort of needless. He got in circular firing squad, I guess. The other thing is the sad part of me, and this may be regional bias, but here in Virginia, we didn't hold the House and flip the Senate and the legislature. So we're going slightly down. It's still very close. Both houses are still very close, but we don't have a majority. But that ends up affecting Glenn Youngkin. As you know, I still held out hope that Youngkin would jump in the presidential race, but that sadly got quashed. The other thing I'd say about 2023 politically is the change I think that's coming in terms of the migrants and the open border. I think Democrats now have to come to terms with it because you've got their constituencies in the cities, which are being overrun. The shelters are being overrun. The services are. They're not really going to be able to continue this. And so one way or the other, Biden's going to, I think, have to stop it and have more restrictionist policies and get rid of that stupid idea of parole where he just lets everybody in. And the trick for Biden is, does he go along with the woke progressive base that's pie in the sky and let everybody in, sort of they can all fit in the city of Houston or whatever their crazy theories are? Or does he do what's probably the sane thing, which the moderate sort of Democrats, or at least the city, big city mayors would want. And I don't know what he does. And I think about this almost every day. I wonder, how's he going to come out on this one? I deep down, I think he's a spineless sort of person, but which does he cave to? And or does he cave at all? The one thing that may force him to is Ukraine, because he does want to get the Ukrainian aid. And if Republicans hold firm and say no until you do something about the border, so maybe you'll get something there. They're negotiating it now, but we'll see. I'd say I think there'll be some sort of deal, but I don't think it'll be that significant. I think you'll still have generally open borders, maybe just reduced a little bit, and then Biden will tout that. But anyway, those are my my things about 2023 and things looking into the future. And I'll add, everybody's predicting who will be the next president or who will even be running. I think Biden still becomes the Democratic nominee, because I don't think they can get rid of him for all the reasons we've mentioned here today. And I think physically, unless he majorly deteriorates, I think he still wants to be president. I think he still wants to be the nominee, and I don't think they can stop him. And like we've all talked about, there's not like an obvious alternative. And Jill Biden probably could be the one to tell him don't do it, but I don't think she's going to do that. I think she likes the situation she's in.
She likes the opulence of being the first lady.
Yeah. And I think, sadly, although I'll vote for him, but I think Trump will be the nominee. I was hopeful that DeSantis might be able to stop him, or maybe even a Youngkin. But I don't see him losing the nomination at this point. I keep looking for that, but I don't think that's going to happen. So, and then who wins that race? I'm not totally sure, but I think Trump has a shot. If you'd asked me several months ago, I would have thought, well, Biden will be able to beat him and get by. But I don't know. With Biden at a 37% approval rating and going down, I don't think he can win. I don't know how you can get reelected in that type of situation. And remember that people are going to have alternatives. The lefts will have alternatives. Cornel West is running on the left. Robert F. Kennedy. Maybe the no labels get enough ballot access and they get a candidate. So I think the Trump vote is there, and the Biden vote's going to be very weak. So anyway, there's my few thoughts for the year.
Yeah, my big stories, and there's actually a really big story that got kind of not as much coverage, and they people kind of freaked out when either way is the rise of AI. 2023 is the year of the AI, and I think it's not going to take over the world. We're not going to be slaves to AI. AI is a tool that makes us do things more efficiently. That's how we need to look at it. Another the PGA and Live Golf agreement, that merger, that was a big story in the world of golf. Nobody saw that one coming, and there's a lot of hurt feelings on the people that stayed with the PGA who didn't get the big payouts that those who went over to Live did. And and the other big story was Silicon Valley Bank. I think this year that I think there's still more to come with bank. I think we're done with. I remember when that happened. Everyone's, there's going to be a bank. There's going to be one of the banks and this and that. And banking is pretty stable. But I think we may see more, depending on how the economy goes next year. So those are my three: AI, Live Golf, and Silicon Valley Bank. Done. Looking ahead in your crystal ball to 2024.
So it actually would play off what Dave just said about Trump. I mean, I think, we will see Donald Trump win the nomination and win the presidency back. The numbers, for Biden are, they're bad. His support is weak. I'm not sure, I'm not sure how Kennedy's going to play into this. I mean, the polling is still early. When it comes down to it, I think a lot of the poll support, the poll numbers for someone like Kennedy or even Cornel West will dissipate greatly. But Kennedy's the kind of guy who can actually draw votes from both guys and hurt both Trump and Biden. So, because of the positions he's taken. But I think Trump, will win. And I think it's largely because you're going to see these swing states, even if Wisconsin manages to, just redistrict based on their Supreme Court ruling and get it into place in time. I think, people are tired. I mean, people are just tired of what's going on there. The message of Bidenomics is not working. He keeps saying it, but it's just like people look around and they're thinking like, I'm still paying a lot more for a lot of basics. My rent is more, the eggs are more, whatever, my bread basket kind of thing items.
Still costs $72 to fill up my Yukon.
Yeah, I mean, the stupid arguments is that gas is down by $1, $1.50 or whatever, since its peak. It's like, yeah, well, the peak was over
$5.
If you're at $3, you're still a lot higher. You're still over $1 higher, I guess, than you were when Biden took office. So people are being economically pinched all the way around, and so. I think, he's just in big trouble. I think these swing states, like I said, I mean, the ones that, that Trump won in 2016, but lost in 2020, the pendulum may swing back and he gets some of that back enough to go ahead and win the presidency this time around. So, I think Biden is toast for that. But I think it also plays into the House. I'm not convinced that Trump got much of any coattails. So, with the New York and Wisconsin redistricting probably going to take place, I think the House might flip. I wouldn't be surprised if the House flipped back to Democratic control. We have such a thin margin right now, and a lot of Republicans, even with all the retirements on both sides, I think the advantage still leans Democrat because Republicans have not done anything. This also plays to, Dave's comments about McCarthy and Johnson. It's like, what did we accomplish from this? We changed House Speaker. We had a lot of just nonsense going on there. And Johnson,
electing our Speaker was was kind of a circus in itself.
Yeah, and Johnson. Look, nothing against Mike Johnson. Okay, I think he's probably
Mike Johnson's a good guy. I like Mike.
Yeah. But to for Matt Gaetz and the firing squad to say, to go after McCarthy for the reasons they did, Johnson's going to face the same choices, right? I mean, we still have the government shutdown looming and all these other things. Who's to say that Johnson does not go ahead and basically do something very similar to what McCarthy would do? Got to make a deal. You don't want to have a government shutdown in election year. It never works out for Republicans at all. So you need to avoid that at all costs. That still goes back to what McCarthy would have done anyway. You didn't, so we're not really gaining anything except make the Republican Party of the House look like just a bunch of clowns. People who don't know what the heck they're doing and can't govern. And if you can't go out there and convince the people you can govern, you don't deserve. You're going to be thrown out. I mean, that's it. So I think they're in trouble. The Senate will be interesting. I mean, I think we have a chance to even up the score a little bit more. That if Trump does indeed win. That if we get a 50-50, then we control. But I don't know that we'll do any better than 50-50 and then gain the presidency and then have to cast those tie-breaking votes.
Does Mitch McConnell survive as leader in the Senate? How do you see?
I mean, look, Mitch is
a survivor.
He is a survivor.
He's not going anywhere.
And look, I understand why hard line conservatives get upset with him. But the thing is that Mitch McConnell, he knows what he's doing there. He's a great politician, and you have got to be good at counting numbers and cajoling and working your caucus to get them on board to vote the way you need to do. And especially, you go if Arizona flips, if Sinema just doesn't actually wind up running as an independent. Then I think Kari Lake can win the Senate in Arizona. Joe Manchin's leaving, so Jim Justice wins. West Virginia and all likelihood.
Or Alex Mooney.
Yeah, but I think Justice has got. It's going to be hard for Alex to overcome Justice money and name recognition. As much as I like Alex.
And I think Trump endorsed Justice, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So, and West Virginia is very red. So, we get that, some other seats Republicans, we'll see what happens here. But,
I think
we've got a shot. But also I'm a pragmatic guy. It's like, I'm not always, convinced that what have the Republicans done when we've controlled all of it? Not necessarily.
The bridge to nowhere. The bridge to nowhere.
Yeah, so I'd love to see us have the House and the Senate and the presidency. I think, it's like, that's good to have Republican control in that one sense. But from what they actually wind up doing when they're in power like that, they don't really have a lot to hang their hat on. So, we control, at least, with the House, controlling the House. While we did that, we can say, hey, we voted for all this legislation. We voted to, curtail spending or keep things in check. Send it to the Senate, with Democrat control, they don't pass things. You can always point to the vote and say, we tried. It's the Democrats that stopped us. Right. So when you control all the levers, you're like, you're going to blame fellow Republicans for screwing something up? I don't know.
Yeah.
And my gazing into the crystal ball, I'll tell you this right now. Let's start with the biggest one. Donald Trump's our nominee. Donald Trump wins, and I think it's a runaway, frankly. I don't even think it's going to be close. We take the Senate, and I want to say we might hold on to the House by a very slim margin, but we'll still hold on to the House, which means pretty much
we're going to need to see a lot more. I mean, we're only in, we've got 11 months, right? I mean, we're going to know a lot more in about 7 or 8 months. We'll have a better idea.
And if the economy really takes a nosedive in June of next year, I know MSNBC did a reporting this week how, I don't know who they were asking there. They said 68% of people think the economy is going to get better in 2024.
Well, I hope it does. But.
Well, look, we've had this Santa Claus rally basically here in the stock market. That's an optimistic type of outlook for investors.
Wall Street thinks Trump's going to be president.
Wall Street is counting on rate cuts next year at some point in time. Those kinds of things will, if done correctly, they bring down interest rates without, reigniting inflation, as inflation has been decelerating. Then, things will be just fine. Biden, I think, will still take some dings for the economy overall because of the pricing, is still way up overall. But I think, that gives some optimism, and I think that people feel that Republicans can do a better job governing in general. The vote in 2020 was really based on not love for Joe Biden, but anti-Trump sentiment.
Yeah.
And I tell you, and my other prediction is China's going to have some economic heartburn this year. I see their economy cooling down a little bit this year. They're not going to see the kind of growth they've been cooling down this year too. But I think it even slows down, which also with their workforce aging as it is, also is not going to help matters. I think in the last my final prediction of the three is going to be that we're going to. I don't think, basically the price of gas is going to stick around the $3 range all the way through to election day, I think. And it's going to go up in the spring because they got to switch over to the springtime mixture, which is a more expensive, more refined oil. So I don't see the price of gas going down anytime soon, because if you look at the left, they've doubled down on their environmental policies, And I don't know if this is true or not. Somebody was telling us, we could go 100% solar. No, we can't. And also that's another thing. Nuclear power is what we need to adopt. If environmentalists were honest, they'd be pushing for nuclear energy.
Well,
because it's safe, clean, and affordable.
Yeah. So that the whole thing about nuclear power is just it's so funny to me now because we have spent decades really, right, of denuclearizing, right, getting, decommissioning reactors. Germany says, they took them out of service.
Yeah, how'd that work out for them?
Yeah, right, exactly. And yet, after COP28, more nations signed on to, say, yeah, we need to do nuclear because they look around, they're like, it's clean, it's cheap, and so it's a great alternative for them if they're trying to say we want to decarbonize, in terms of we don't want to burn natural gas or coal or whatever. Well, then nuclear. And then you talked about 2023 being year of AI. Well, what powers AI? Actually, like these little mini reactors are going to be needed because AI sucks up so much energy that's what they're looking at, is like saying, in order to power AI down going forward, and demand will only increase, is that we're going to need nuclear energy to be able to do this. So, you remember when Bitcoin came on, how much energy, Bitcoin, sucked up.
Yeah. And by the way, that here's my bonus for it. I think Bitcoin and those digital currencies are going to be gone. They're on the way out, I think, in 2024.
It was an interesting year, right? I mean, Bitcoin, I think the digital currencies, what wound up with them is that, because, the SEC is weighing, allowing, Bitcoin ETFs, there's a lot of hope that will actually go forward, and that will create a whole new market for that. But yeah, if you had Bitcoin, invested in Bitcoin at the beginning of 2023, you did very well this year. Yeah.
But I tell you, if you did,
it's way
sadly I didn't.
I can't do that stuff.
Hey, no, if you invested in Ethereum or those other alternative Bitcoins, you're not doing too well.
Yeah, I mean, you need to be with you need to be with the main thing. I mean, you see what happens with. I mean, Ethereum is probably okay, but there were just everybody and their brother seemed to want to do things, and Elon, went along with the whole funny, the kind of the meme, one with Dogecoin. Remember when Jason was talking about Dogecoin?
Yeah.
You see that. I mean, you can track all kinds of, digital currency, all those kinds of things. But yeah, I mean, Bitcoin had a great year, but it's just too high risk, and you forget what your wallet is, and you can't you'll lose it forever, and all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's like that's not for me. I'm too old for this.
Yeah, I mean, but there's a study on Gen Xers are not likely to get into Bitcoin, but if they do get into Bitcoin, they do like hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're not going to do it. They're not doing like $1,000, $2,000. They're doing like $100,000, $50,000 in Bitcoin. And
I'm almost surprised my youngest son hasn't said, "Hey, I'm going to invest in Bitcoin."
Well, guys, I'm gonna say goodnight.
All right.
Yeah. Well, Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, everybody.
And thanks for sticking around. We definitely went to extra innings today. Good night.
We'll see you next year.
Yeah. See you.